Her baby wouldn't stop crying at the office until the billionaire took him in his arms. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime, and the familiar scent of coffee and perfume filled the air. It was 8:45 a.m., and Emma Brooks was already late. Again. She clutched her infant son, Noah, close to her chest, praying he wouldn't start crying just yet. But prayers, as she had learned, didn't always reach heaven on time. Noah whimpered, then began to wail. The sharp, heart-tugging cry that echoed through the marble-floored lobby of Ward Industries, one of the city's largest corporations. Heads turned, eyes narrowed. Emma's cheeks burned. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, bouncing him gently. "Shh, baby, please." She had no one to leave him with. Her mother was sick, daycare was too expensive, and the sitter she relied on had quit last night. She'd begged her boss to let her bring Noah just for the day, promising it would never happen again. What she didn't expect was for the CEO himself to be in the building that morning. Ethan Ward, the billionaire no one ever saw up close. The man behind every whispered hallway rumor, whose presence made even the most confident managers straighten their ties. And that was the morning he chose to visit his downtown office. The morning Emma's baby wouldn't stop crying. As she rushed past the front desk toward the elevators, the doors opened again, and there he was. Tall, composed, sharp gray suit, eyes like winter rain. Ethan Ward. Their worlds collided in a heartbeat. Noah's cries bounced off the polished glass walls, and Emma froze mid-step. Her heart dropped. The entire lobby went silent except for the baby's desperate wails. Ethan looked at her, not with annoyance but with quiet curiosity. His gaze softened as he noticed her trembling hands, the dark circles under her eyes, the exhaustion hiding behind forced composure. "Rough morning?" he asked, voice calm but deep. "I'm so sorry, sir," she stammered. "He's usually calm, I swear. May I?" he interrupted gently. Before she could react, he reached out his arms. Instinctively, she hesitated. This was the CEO, for heaven's sake. But there was something so steady, so sure in his eyes that she handed Noah over. And just like that, silence. The moment Ethan held the baby, the crying stopped. Noah blinked up at him, hiccuped once, and then, unbelievably, smiled. Everyone in the lobby gasped. Even the receptionist whispered, "Did you see that?" Ethan looked down at the tiny boy, his stern expression softening into something almost tender. "There now," he murmured. "Nothing to cry about, little man." Emma stood frozen, her mouth slightly open. I don't understand. He never—" Ethan smiled faintly. "Some people just need to feel safe. Babies, too." For a moment, the powerful CEO and the struggling single mother stood in a bubble of calm amid the chaos of corporate life. She watched him, unable to look away. The way he held Noah, gentle but confident, reminded her of something she hadn't seen in years, a kind of care that didn't demand anything in return. When he finally handed Noah back, Emma's arms felt both lighter and emptier. "What's your name?" he asked. "Emma Brooks, sir. I'm a temporary assistant on the 3rd floor." "Temporary?" He raised a brow. "For how long?" "Until they find someone better," she said, trying to joke, though her voice cracked. His eyes lingered on her for a moment longer. "I'll be up there shortly. Carry on, Miss Brooks." She nodded quickly, holding Noah close again, and rushed toward the elevator, heart pounding, mind spinning. All day, she couldn't focus. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the image of the billionaire holding her baby, the softness in his eyes, the calm in his voice. She told herself it meant nothing. People like him lived in a different universe. She was a single mother trying to keep the lights on. He was a man who could buy stars if he wanted. But fate, it seemed, wasn't done weaving their paths together. That afternoon, her manager called her into the conference room. Her stomach sank. This was it, she thought. She was going to be fired for bringing Noah. But instead, she walked in to find Ethan Ward himself sitting at the head of the table, scrolling through documents. "Ms. Brooks," he said, without looking up. "Take a seat." She did, nervously, clutching her bag. "I reviewed your file," he said, his tone unreadable. "Your evaluations are excellent. You've been covering 2 positions for the salary of 1. I just do what needs to be done, sir." He looked up. "You're raising a child alone, aren't you?" Her heart skipped. "How did you— You mentioned your mother was ill on your form. I assumed the rest." She swallowed hard. "I don't want pity, sir. I just need work." His gaze softened again. The same look she saw that morning in the lobby. "You remind me of someone," he said quietly. "Someone who used to believe the world could be fixed with hard work and kindness." He leaned back in his chair. "Starting Monday, you'll be my executive assistant." Her mouth fell open. "What, sir, that's not negotiable." He finished with a faint smile. "No, it's not. You've earned this, Miss Brooks." Tears welled in her eyes before she could stop them. "I don't know how to thank you." "Just keep showing up," he said simply. "And maybe bring Noah around sometimes. He's got good taste in people." For the first time in months, Emma laughed. Really laughed. That night, when she finally put Noah to bed, she sat by the window, the city lights flickering outside. She thought about how quickly life could turn, how one act of grace could shift everything. She didn't know why Ethan had helped her. Maybe he saw something in her he'd lost in himself. Maybe he just cared. But whatever it was, she felt something she hadn't in years. Hope. And she had no idea that for Ethan, holding that child had awakened something buried deep, a memory of the son he'd once lost, and the part of himself he'd sealed away with the pain. For both of them, that morning in the lobby wasn't an accident. It was the beginning. The weeks turned into months, and the cold, glassy world of Ward Industries slowly began to feel warmer, not because of its marble floors or skyline views, but because of laughter. Little Noah's laughter. Emma's laughter. The kind of sound Ethan hadn't heard in years. Every morning, Emma would walk into Ethan's office, professional and poised, but her eyes always carried the same quiet light. She handled everything. His meetings, his schedule, even his silences. Sometimes, when she was typing away, Ethan would glance up and catch himself smiling. There was a peace about her that reminded him of what life used to feel like before success had turned everything into noise. But it wasn't until one stormy evening that the walls between them truly began to fade. The rain had started without warning, drumming against the office windows. Everyone had left hours ago, but Emma stayed behind, finishing the quarterly reports. When she finally shut down her computer, she found Ethan still in his chair, staring blankly at the rain. "You're still here," she said softly. He didn't look at her. Habit. She hesitated, then walked closer. "You should go home." He let out a quiet laugh. "Home," he repeated. "That's a strange word when there's no one waiting there." Her chest tightened. She sat down across from him. "You don't mean that." "I do," he said quietly. "I had a family once, a wife, a son. Lost them both in a car accident 8 years ago. I've been trying to fill the silence ever since. With work, success, people who wanted something from me. But it never stopped echoing." Emma's breath caught. The pain in his voice was so raw it reached into her chest. "I'm sorry," she whispered. He looked up then, his eyes meeting hers. "When I held your son that morning," he said slowly, "I remembered what it felt like to hold my boy again. The way he looked at me with complete trust, it broke something in me, but it also fixed something too." Tears burned behind Emma's eyes. "Maybe that's why Noah stopped crying," she murmured. "Maybe he felt that." The office fell silent except for the rain. And for the first time, Ethan smiled. Not the practiced one for investors or headlines, but something real, something soft. That night, he offered to drive her home. The city lights blurred behind the windshield as Noah slept in his car seat, tiny hands curled like promises. When they reached her small apartment building, Ethan hesitated. "Emma," he said quietly, "you've brought something back into my life I thought I'd buried forever." She turned to face him, heart trembling. And you've given me something I didn't think I deserved anymore. A chance." For a moment, neither moved. The air between them felt like an unfinished sentence. Then Noah stirred, breaking the spell, and Ethan smiled. "Good night, Miss Brooks." "Good night, Mr. Ward." But good nights turned into late-night phone calls about work that lingered into laughter. Laughter turned into shared lunches. Shared lunches turned into quiet moments where their hands brushed and neither pulled away. By winter, Emma was no longer just Ethan's assistant. She had become his peace. One snowy evening, the company hosted its annual charity gala. Emma had never been invited before, but this year her name was on the list. When she stepped into the ballroom wearing a simple blue dress and nervous smile, every head turned, including Ethan's. For a long moment he couldn't speak. He had seen beauty before, but this was different. This was the kind that made you remember what your heart was for. "You look," he began, then stopped, shaking his head slightly. "Incredible," she blushed. "I'm not really a gala person." "You are tonight." They danced, awkwardly at first, then as if they'd done it all their lives. Around them, the glittering crowd blurred into soft motion. When the song ended, Ethan leaned in close. "I used to think I was done with love," he murmured. "Then you walked in, holding a crying baby, and somehow the world started again." Tears filled her eyes. "Ethan!" He cupped her face gently. "You don't need to say anything. Just don't run from this." She didn't. Months later, the three of them, Ethan, Emma, and little Noah, stood in the park where the cherry blossoms bloomed. The billionaire who once built walls around his heart was now on one knee, a small velvet box in his hand. "I spent years building an empire," Ethan said, voice trembling. "But it took one woman and her baby to show me what home really means. Emma Brooks, will you and Noah make this stubborn man's house a home again?" Emma's tears fell freely as she nodded, laughing through the sobs. "Yes, 1,000 times, yes." Noah clapped his tiny hands as petals drifted through the air. That day, Ward Industries didn't just gain a new name on its executive team, it gained a story. A story whispered by employees about the billionaire who found love in the most unexpected place. The story of a crying baby who stopped an empire in its tracks. And on quiet nights, when Emma rocked Noah to sleep in their new home, Ethan would stand in the doorway, smiling. The world outside could keep spinning. The meetings, the headlines, the wealth. None of it mattered anymore. Because here, in this small warm space, love had finally found its way home.